So we're going to all be on the same page as we start using IXL. And for that, I just want to talk about what IXL is. IXL is an end-to-end teaching and learning solution. We have a pre-K to 12th grade curriculum. In that curriculum, we have personalized guidance built right in. We also have engagement tools and many things within IXL to help you instruct. And then we're going to talk a lot about today is our assessment suite. So we're going to talk about the diagnostic and how you're going to be using that at Vanguard Academy. We also have data. So lots of data for your classroom and even for your individual students. And last but not least, your administrators have really built a great relationship or partnership with IXL so far, and we'll continue that as the year goes. I am your go-to person for all questions about IXL. So IXL is all of these things, but what is really cool about IXL is that each of these components is designed to work together. They work together to give you everything you need to really maximize learning for every student. So here's what our agenda looks like today. We're going to start off the session talking about the diagnostic and how Vanguard Academy is going to use this tool to personalize learning and see students grow. We're then going to take a look at IXL's curriculum, which we call skills. We're going to explore how these skills are crafted to support targeted student learning. We'll even talk about all the instructional resources that we have built in to those skills. Then we're going to talk about how you can use IXL in your daily instruction. How to use IXL to plan your lesson, deliver that lesson, and monitor student progress. And then to finish up our time, we are going to just touch on our teacher resources that are available so you can learn even more about IXL after the session today. Now, something that I can't see you guys, so I don't know, but if you happen to have a laptop or a Kindle or iPad or some kind of device, you can even use your cell phone if you wanted to. You can log in to your IXL account, which has already been created as a teacher. As a Vanguard Academy teacher, you are going to log into IXL through Clever. So Clever and all of the students that you guys have rostered in that system will sync with IXL. It has created you a teacher account and put all of the students in your class on your IXL roster. So if you have the ability, you are welcome to log in to your teacher account. If not, I am going to be demonstrating everything from our live website. So no worries, you can just go ahead and focus on my screen if you don't have a device with you. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into basic navigation. So we need to know where everything is located in our teacher account before we can really talk about all of the different features. So this is a teacher account now on the screen, and you'll be able to see this when you log into your teacher account. At the top in the green toolbar is where you're going to find all of the important sections of IXL. So first is My IXL. This is like your home base as a teacher. It's where you can find your roster. It's where you can find all the fun tools. We're going to talk about a few of these today. And then it's also where you can find all of those wonderful teacher resources that you can access after our session today. Then we have our Learning tab. You can probably guess what this is for. This is for learning. This is where all the curriculum is going to be found. So all of those skills that your students are going to be practicing in math will be found under the Learning tab. The Assessment tab is where you and your students will access IXL's assessment or diagnostic. And then analytics is going to be where you go to look at data. So you'll be able to then access all the data and all of the reports that you need to look at in order to know that your students are growing or that your students are just doing what they're supposed to be doing within IXL. So those are the important sections of IXL. And you might have noticed that as I was demonstrating that for you, I was hovering over the different sections. And when I say hover, it means I'm just placing my mouse over the different sections. And when I do that in IXL, what happens is different menus will appear. So when I hover my mouse over the different sections of IXL, I'll see the menu for that section, and I can click into what I need. So just keep that in mind, that when you're hovering in IXL, you will be able to see all the menus you need to see. So because Vanguard Academy is implementing IXL's diagnostic, I wanted to start there. So at the beginning of the year, your students will take what we call a diagnostic snapshot. The diagnostic within IXL, we call it a game changer because it really can do so much. What it will do is pinpoint any gaps in knowledge that your students have, and then create a personalized action plan for those students to really help them grow from exactly where they are. It's not like your typical assessment. It really is not a traditional one that you've seen before. It's not high stakes or scary for students. It does a great job of measuring their knowledge, but it doesn't stop there. It then makes those results actionable with that personalized action plan. The diagnostic supports your everyday teaching, and that's why we're going to talk about it first today. All right, so we're going to talk about these snapshot windows that the administrators at Vanguard Academy will be setting up for you. So your diagnostic snapshot will be set up by your administrators, and this is something you don't have to mess with. So it's going to be done for you, and it's going to be a great benchmarking tool that your students and you will have access to. This snapshot will give you a reliable insight, understanding how students need to grow. So the first thing we're actually going to do is look at the student perspective for the snapshot. I just want to be sure we understand what our students are going to see when they log in and the snapshot window of time is open. So when your administrator sets up a snapshot window and your students log into IXL through Clever, they will see the screen that you see on your screen. So they will see their diagnostic snapshot window is opened, and it will direct them to go ahead and get started. When they get started, they will then be able to access the diagnostic, and you guys are only doing math, so they won't see this language arts over here, and they will go ahead and click on Start the Math Snapshot. So I'll be able to answer questions as a student. I'm not going to see any feedback here. I'm just going to see if I was right or wrong. It's not going to help me learn from my mistake. This is simply just an assessment for students, but it is a positive experience for students, and it is an adaptive assessment. So as I'm answering questions as the student, IXL is taking that data and choosing the next question for me based on that data. Now, students will begin questions on their rostered grade level. So if they are a rostered fifth grader, they will start with fifth grade questions, but IXL will quickly adapt to them and choose questions based on how they are answering. In our math snapshot, students have access to this scratch pad over here on the right-hand side. Students can choose the pencil to work out problems. They can use the highlighter to highlight certain parts of the question if they want to. So this tool is available throughout the math snapshot. You might also see that there is this button on the bottom of the question, I don't know this yet. So students can use the I don't know this yet button if they truly haven't been taught how to answer this question. When they do choose this, it is getting the question incorrect. So just let them know that. But they are, if they're feeling stuck and they're like, I don't even know what these words mean, they are welcome to use the I don't know this yet button. Here at the top, they're going to see this flag move along this line as they answer questions. This is just indicating how far along they are in the diagnostic snapshot. And when they're, around this area, they're almost done with their questions. So that's a little bit of how the student is going to experience the IXL diagnostic snapshot. But let's talk a little bit more about what it entails for students. So we recommend allocating about 60 minutes to complete the math snapshot. Now, they will see this notification when they are done with the snapshot, and they can reveal their levels right when they have finished it. Something that's really important to know is that even though we recommend 60 minutes, it could definitely take longer or shorter than that. And that 60 minutes does not have to be done all in one sitting. They can come into diagnostic, answer questions for 20 minutes, leave it for that day and come back the next day and pick up right where they left off. So again, really flexible tool that students can complete the diagnostic at any time during the window that your administrators are going to set up. All right, so once we complete the snapshot, you will be able to go into your teacher account and go to your Diagnostic Action Center. This is going to be found in your teacher account by clicking on Assessment. So in the teacher account, you'll be able to see every individual student's results, just like you see here. You'll be able to choose the individual student from the drop down here at the top right corner. And you'll be able to see how that student did overall in math and each of their levels in the 6 math strands. Students also have access to this and are able to see their levels in their own account. They look just like this. And all they have to do to get to that is click on Assessment as well. So once I have a student with actual data, that would be right here, and all they had to do was click on Assessment. Now, I want to talk about these levels just a little bit because we need to understand what these numbers mean. So our diagnostic levels correspond to grade levels. So a 400 would mean ready to start 4th grade. 650 would mean that the student knows half of the 6th grade math material. This 530 would mean that the student's on a 5th grade level and knows 30% of the math in 5th grade. Each of the levels for the strands are the exact same. So if I have a student at a 750 for fractions, it means that that student's on a 7th grade level and knows 50% of the 7th grade fractions material. In addition to these scores or levels that each student will have, each student will also have these recommended skills. So every strand in math, numbers and operations, algebra, fractions, geometry, measurement, and data, all of these will have recommended skills that the student is supposed to work on in order to grow from right where they are. These are skills that IXL has identified as the exact right skills to help your students grow. Now, these recommended skills are truly personalized. So even if I have 2 students with a 470 in numbers and operations, they will have different recommended skills based on how they answered questions in the diagnostic. This diagnostic action plan with their levels and recommended skills is also going to live on a PDF version right down here. Now, as a school or district that's using the snapshot, you'll actually see different links down here for every snapshot that your student takes. So every time they take a snapshot, they'll have a different action plan to go with it. That action plan is going to be great. It is great to print or save. You can send this home to parents. You can put this in a student folder. You can use this throughout the year to know where your students should be working in IXL. So this action plan is the exact same thing that we're seeing right here, but just in this PDF format. You can see that we have the levels and all of those recommended skills for your students to work on are listed on the plan. Okay, so that was a lot of information about the diagnostic. Again, when the district sets that diagnostic up, all your students have to do is log in and then click Get Started. When they are done, all you have to do is come to your Assessment tab, and you can see right away where your students' levels are and what skills they should be working on. Now, there are a lot of ways to incorporate this action plan into your classroom routines. It's great for student use during independent work times. So if you wanted to assign one skill for homework, you could just have them choose a skill from their action plan. You could also use this for center time and have students work independently on these skills. You could use this for bell work. It's really just up to you. But I will say this, the most growth happens, and you'll be able to see student growth from the first snapshot to the second snapshot if your students work on the recommended skills that IXL gives them. You know, we're trying to help them grow, so these skills are what's going to do that. Now, there is another report that I just want to show you real quick. So after your students take the diagnostic, you're going to be able to just see here that they have their individual scores and recommendations. But you might also want to see your class as a whole. So under analytics, we have a diagnostic section. This diagnostic overview is going to give you all of your students on one report, and you can see all of their levels in one place. So once this pulls up, we'll be able to see our student names here on the left, and then their levels on the right. Now, these are their current levels. So you see a range. As time goes by in between the diagnostic snapshots, these levels will grow, these ranges will grow because we need more data to know if they're still at that same level that they took a month ago. So if you see a student that has a range, you can always tell them it's diagnostic maintenance time. Go back into your account, click on assessment, step into the arena, and just answer a few questions so we can update your levels and have current levels in your diagnostic. So just like I was talking about, we do recommend keeping those diagnostic levels up to date. We recommend this either weekly or bi-weekly. All they have to do is go back into that diagnostic arena and answer like 5 questions to keep those levels up to date. This ensures that the students are working on their most up-to-date recommendations, and we know their current knowledge levels. Some of the things that I love about this is as I'm meeting with teachers, they tell me all the creative ideas that they have. And I'll have a lot of districts across the country that actually use the Monday, every Monday as Maintenance Monday. So as a district or a classroom, you could have Move It Up or Maintenance Monday, where every Monday when your students walk into your classroom, they know that they're going to log into IXL, they're going to click on assessment and step into the arena, and they're going to update their diagnostic levels. So you can call it Move It Up Monday because we're moving up our levels, or Maintenance Monday because we're performing that maintenance on our diagnostic. So we're going to begin the year with that snapshot. And then we're going to keep our levels and recommendations up to date with just 10 minutes a week on the diagnostic. 5 questions, about 10 minutes. If you don't have 10 minutes, do 5 minutes, because any diagnostic updating is better than none. All right, so that was our quick diagnostic intro. Hopefully now we at least have everything that we need to get started with our students in the diagnostic part of IXL. If you do have questions and they're like burning questions, have Efren or Mr. Rodriguez go ahead and write those in the chat box. If not, I am going to give you my email address and you can always email me with any questions that you have. I am, on a side note, super excited to start the diagnostic in Vanguard. I do think it's going to be a wonderful way to show growth in our students throughout the year, because we'll take that beginning snapshot, middle, and end. And so we'll be able to really track their progress as the year goes on. So now that you have an understanding of how you can use IXL's diagnostic, I want to discuss our skills, our curriculum, which is really the core of our platform. Now remember, our curriculum talks and communicates to our diagnostic. So all parts of IXL are interconnected. When your students are working on skills, those skills can come from you, meaning you assigned them, and I am going to show you how to do that. Or they can come from our diagnostic. And we just learned how students can access those skills, right? They can always access those by clicking on assessment and clicking on those recommended skills. So no matter how a student is getting to a skill, whether it's recommended by you or our diagnostic, you can rest assured that our skills are going to support your classroom and your students. So our skills basically take a concept and break it down into small building blocks. They are very targeted and they allow your students to build mastery one step at a time. Something that is really unique about IXL's curriculum and our skills is that they are adaptive. So every time your student enters a skill, IXL is going to adjust to that learner. So they are getting questions that they need based on how they're answering previous questions. That makes IXL very different than any other platform you've probably seen. It is truly an adaptive platform. So what I want to do now is kind of hop into what the student is going to experience once they start working on skills. So when a student opens a skill, they could be getting to this skill because of the teacher assigned it to them, or maybe they're getting to this skill because the diagnostic told them to work on it. But however they're getting to this skill, they are going to receive just one question at a time when they're working on questions. This is really going to help them really focus on one thing at a time. They're not looking at the front and back of a worksheet thinking, oh my gosh, this is so long. They're only getting one question at a time. So when we answer questions, sorry guys, I have to actually answer this question. I had to count. When we answer questions, we are going to see immediate feedback every single time we answer a question. So I got that one correct. And as I answered it, I got that wonderful across my screen. I knew right away that my answer was correct. Now, if I get this one wrong, I'm also going to know right away that I got this wrong. But we take it a step further. IXL provides students with an incorrect answer explanation that's really going to help them learn from their mistake and find the correct answer. So hopefully we can get our students to read or listen to this explanation before moving on. Now, I do want you to take a look at the SMART score. What does this do when I get a question correct? Well, it goes up. So every time I get a question correct, that SMART score goes up. If I happen to get a question incorrect, what happens to the SMART score then? You see that it went down just a few points. So the SMART score goes up with correct answers, and it does go down with incorrect answers. Now, when your students are working on IXL, they will receive a ribbon when they reach a SMART score of 70, 80, and 90, and they will receive a medal when they reach 100. On IXL, something that I really want you to remember today is that an 80 is proficiency. That is super important to know and remember for success for your students in IXL. The SMART score is designed for how students learn. It is unique to IXL, and it's really going to give you the best possible information on a student's true understanding of a skill. Now, as you can see from this image, the SMART score is going to go up with correct and down with incorrect answers. However, it is very different than a normal percentage score because even if we lose points, we can regain those by answering more questions correctly. So we're never going to be stuck at a certain SMART score because we answered a question wrong. We can always reach the goal for the SMART score that my teacher gave me because it is forgiving of mistakes and you can regain those points. So even though the SMART score goes from 0 to 100, I want you to remember that it is not a percentage. So the SMART score really analyzes more than a percentage does. It looks at the consistency of the answers that are given, the difficulty of questions, and even the recent questions that the student has answered. So it really takes into account a lot more than just a normal percentage. Now, something that's really important to know is that we actually recommend that students reach a SMART score of 80. This is going to be where they really start to see progress and growth. And what we really recommend is that they reach that 80 SMART score in at least 2 skills per week. Now with Vanguard, I actually want to take it a little step further. We recommend that students work in at least 2 skills per week and that they reach an 80 or proficient level. I suggest that one of those skills be a skill that the teacher recommends, and I am going to show you how to do that. And then the other skill come from their diagnostic action plan. So then we're really reaching students with a skill that they need to practice based on their individual score. But we're also reaching students with what's being taught in their math classroom, and we can use IXL to reinforce that. So again, in our research, we have seen significant student growth when they reach at least proficiency in at least 2 skills each week. And with Vanguard, I do recommend 1 skill comes from the diagnostic and 1 skill comes from the teacher. All right, so that was a lot to take in. I do want to make sure that there aren't any burning questions. Remember, if you want to write your questions down and maybe save them for the end, I can always stay after, or you can just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to answer them that way. All right. So we are going to move on to our instructional resources. So now that you're familiar with our skills and what those look like and the diagnostic, I want to show you what instructional resources we have built in to IXL to help students who might be tackling a new concept, or maybe they're using IXL to reinforce what they learned in their class. I'm going to hop on back over to our student account, and I'm going to open up a skill to show you some of these resources. All right, so right away when we open up a skill, I want to show you that we have a few things at the top of the skill that are going to support your students. The first is learn with an example. So this is going to be a way that your students can really get a little bit of confidence before starting to answer questions. This is going to give them a question and walk them through how to find the answer. This is going to give them more confidence and a little bit of a solid foundation before jumping into these questions in this skill. We also have videos. So our video tutorials are wonderful. They are available in grade 3, so 3rd grade, all the way through geometry. So our math content, again, has videos from 3rd grade through geometry. These are great for students who are learning independently and need a little bit of help. They're also great for parents that might need help understanding what their student is doing. As a parent myself, I have watched numerous videos on IXL to understand how to help my middle schooler with math. So again, these can be watched at school or at home. As a teacher, you have access to these videos as well. So you could always show the video in your classroom, assign it for homework. However you want to use the videos, they are available for you. I'm going to show you just a few seconds of the video so you can get a feel for what it looks like.
Let's convert decimals to fractions. and fractions to decimals. Let's start with decimals. Write 0.7 as a fraction. Here, the 7 is in the tenths place. So let's write the decimal as a fraction with a 10 in its denominator. Our numerator is 7.
So you can see that we got a little preview of what that teacher looked like at the very beginning. We saw that he's a real teacher. We always use certified teachers to make our videos. Lots of different teachers played a part in making these, so you're not going to see the same teacher twice. You're going to be able to get all the teachers' different perspectives on this particular concept and learn from them by watching the video. We also have, this is new this year, but we have a way for you to find all of our videos on one page. This is going to be under the Learning tab for students and for teachers. Under that Learning tab, when we find our math curriculum, we can click on Videos. And then we'll be able to see every grade level. We can click on the grade level that we need. And we can see all the videos that IXL has available. So just a great one-stop shop for every video you might want in your classroom this year. All right, let's go back to our skill. Just going to show you a few more things within our skill. So we looked at Learn with an Example. We looked at the video. We also have our scratch pad down here at the bottom where students can use the pencil. They can work things out on their screen. They can also use the highlighter and highlight different things they need to. So this scratch pad is available to work things out within a skill. We also have Spanish support, so you can have students view the question in Spanish and English. And I will show you how to add that in just a second here. We also have audio support for some of our grade levels. So then your students can listen to the question and they don't have, if they have that on like an individual education plan, we do have that audio support built in. So what I want to do is quickly hop over to the teacher account and just show you how to add that Spanish support and that audio support. So this is our teacher account. Up here in the right-hand corner, you should see your name. Next to your name, there's a drop-down. When you click on Profile and Settings, you will be able to then change a few of the settings within your teacher and student accounts. So you can enable audio support for your students. So audio support is going to be available up through 8th grade for math. So it will go all the way from pre-K to 8th grade. The audio support also lives in that diagnostic assessment if your students need it there. And then that Spanish support, we have Spanish support all the way from pre-K to geometry. And if you enable that for your students, they will see that Spanish support when they open up the skill. So those were some of the resources that students have in their account. They have those videos, Spanish and audio support, the scratch pad. So just an array of videos, or sorry, an array of support for your students as they're working in IXL. So what we're going to move on to now is using IXL in your daily instruction. So I want you to kind of think of IXL as two parts that work together. We have the diagnostic. We also have the second part, which is teacher-driven. So our teacher-driven IXL and our diagnostic, they can work together to really provide all that your students need. We've already talked about the diagnostic. So what I want to talk about now is the teacher-driven portion of IXL, and that is IXL for daily instruction. So on IXL, as a teacher, you have access to thousands of skills. We definitely have the skills you need to match what you're teaching. And we actually have a really easy way for you to find the skills that exactly match your lesson. Under the Learning tab, when I hover my mouse, I want you to come to Skill Plans. Skill plans are going to be where you can really find that specific Texas alignment that Vanguard is going to need. And so when you come to find skills for your students, you come to that Learning tab and then click on Skill Plans. Just make sure that we're always using a skill plan because that's going to be really where we find those specific Texas alignments. So the first thing that I want to show you with our skill plans is our alignment to state standards. So we are aligned to the TEKS, or the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for math. You can see here that we have all of the TEKS listed from pre-K all the way to pre-calc. And you can click on any of the grade levels that you teach to find this alignment. So if I am a fourth grade teacher, for example, I clicked on fourth grade, I can see these are my TEKS. The strands of the TEKS are listed at the top. And as I scroll down, I can see the standard on the left and the IXL skills that align with that standard on the right. So this is such an easy way to know that, oh, hey, so I'm teaching this standard this week. I'm going to look at IXL and find some skills that reinforce my standard that I'm teaching. All right, so that was the state standards alignment. Again, alignment to those TEKS. We're going to go back to our skill plans page. And I'm going to show you a few other skill plans that we have. So we are aligned to the Texas assessments. So that STAR that you guys take, we have alignment to that. If you wanted to take a look at this alignment, maybe in test prep season in the spring, you can come to our test prep skill plans, find the STAR, and click on the grade that you teach. This is going to give you that highly assessed standard and the skills that align with it. So this is a great place to come towards the end of the school year and really dive into these STAR-specific skills within IXL. So those are the skill plans that we recommend using. Again, those TEKS and the alignment to STAR. What I want everyone to do, if you're logged in now or when you log in later, is pin the skill plan that you plan on using. So I would come to my state standards and I would pin this grade level that I'm teaching. So I would just click on the push pin next to the name of the grade. If I happen to teach third, fourth, and fifth, I'm going to pin all of those. And what this does is it brings them to the top of my page. So that way I can easily access that skill plan and not have to scroll down and search for it. All right, guys. So that was our skill plans. Those are what I highly recommend you use when you are choosing skills that you're going to assign to your classes or to students. Now, once we find the skills that our students should be working on, we need to get them started. So we'll have to assign the skills to our students. Now, there is one or two ways that we recommend doing this. You can assign skills by using the gray star next to the name of the skill. Every single skill is going to have a gray star next to it. And when you hover your mouse over the gray star, you're going to see this menu. Your menu will look different because you have your own classes in IXL. But when you hover over the star, you can then pick who you want to assign the skill to. Maybe you want to give this one to all students, but the one down here you want to just give to your first period. So I'm just going to click on first period. So that's how we recommend assigning skills, is using that star. Now you might have noticed this, but when we logged in as a student, I clicked on that star list to get to the skills my teacher wanted me to work on. This is the one I actually just assigned 2 seconds ago. And I can just go ahead and click into it and get started. So just really easy to get your students working on IXL by using that star feature. One other way that you can assign skills is by giving your students the permanent skill ID of the skill you want them to work on. So every skill in IXL has a 3-digit code that we call the permanent skill ID. This code can be found by hovering your mouse over the name of the skill, and it is over here where it says search shortcut. You can also find this 3-digit code by clicking into the skill. And in your teacher account, once you see that question, you can see that that permanent skill ID is up here at the top. So how would a student use this? They would be able to type in that permanent skill ID. The very first and only thing that should come up is this, and I can click on it and get right to work. All right, so that was all the ways that you can assign skills. I do want to talk about an activity in IXL that you can actually use to instruct. So there is something in IXL called group jams. So group jams is a way that you can really pull IXL into your classroom for a fun activity. These are perfect for whole class or working with small groups. And just a really friendly way to set up maybe a little competition or an exit ticket before your students leave for the day. So I'm going to go over how to set one of these group jams up, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like from the student perspective. So super easy to set a group jam activity up. You just have to have the skill opened. So you could go into your teacher account, go to learning, go to your skill plans, choose the skill plan that you want to look at, choose the standard that you are covering, and then choose the skill that you want to do this activity with. So I'll go ahead and choose the skill and open it up. And once I have that skill opened in my teacher account, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it says Start Group Jam. So you can click on Start Group Jam in order to start the activity with this particular skill. Now, once I do that, it's going to bring me to the Group Jam setup page where I have that skill already chosen. And now I need to choose my students. Am I going to work with everyone? Am I going to work in a class period? Or do I need to come in here and just click on individual names to pull students aside? Now, once I've done that, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click on Start Group Jam. Sometimes it takes a second for this to work through it and start. So just give it a second if this does it to you as well. In the student account, when a group jam is started, you will see students will see join the jam, and that's all they have to do. And then they're going to be answering the question. So here we're going to graph this. We're going to answer the question and we're going to click submit. Right away, I'm going to see that I got this right. If I got it wrong, I would also see that. And over in the teacher account, it is still thinking about starting the group jam, even though it already started it. There it goes. Okay, so the group jam will be started for the students in your teacher account, and you'll be able to monitor their answers as you go. So here I have all of their little avatars at the top. You can see that this is going to represent my student, Amy, and I see a green check mark, so she got this question right. I can also see the total number of questions that the whole class got right over here. And remember, they're all seeing the same question at the same time. Once my students have finished and I've done reteaching, if I need to, I can click on Move to Review. And now this is going to show me that explanation that I can go over with my students if I need to. So this is where I can make those informed instructional decisions. I can use this data to do my reteaching and help any students that might need help. When we're ready for the next question, I'm going to choose a question of the same level of difficulty or a harder question. So just a really good activity to kind of infuse IXL into your instruction. You can use this as a quick little formative assessment or, again, during your instruction. All right, guys, so that was the group jam and a way that you can deliver your lesson to your students. Now we're going to talk a little bit about monitoring student progress. So there is actually a way within IXL to monitor students' progress live, like in the second that they are progressing in IXL, you can see how they're doing. This report is called Live Classroom. You're going to find it in your teacher account by coming to My IXL and clicking on Live Classroom. When your students log into IXL, I thought I ended this. Let me end this. They'll be taken to the skill that you want them to work on, and they will pop up on this little tile. So each student will receive their own tile, and on that tile, they'll see the name of the skill they're working on. They'll see how many questions they've answered, or you'll see how many questions they've answered, what their SMART score is, and whether they're idle or in a trouble spot. Their idle means that they've not answered questions for a few minutes. A trouble spot with this little symbol here indicates that the student has answered at least 3 questions wrong and might need your help moving to the next set of questions. There are other things that you can do with Live Classroom. You can send a live message. So I can send individual students messages. I see that Amy here is paused. So I'm going to send Amy a message telling her to get back on task or asking how I can help. So when I send that to her, she'll receive it in the upper right-hand corner of the student account. And the student can respond with an emoji like that check mark, smiley face, question mark, and X. This is the only communication they can have with an IXL. I promise that they can't abuse this because they're not allowed to message anyone else at all. In fact, they can't even message you, the teacher, unless it's with one of those 4 emojis and in response to a message from you. So Live Classroom is just a really good tool to monitor how students are doing, look at their SMART score, making sure they're reaching that 80. All right, guys. So that was monitoring student progress, which brings us to the end of the IXL for daily instruction. So we went over how to plan your lesson and find skills that are aligned to TEKS and to STAR. We talked about delivering your lesson by assigning a skill or by using a group jam. And then we talked about monitoring student progress with that live classroom. So we have a few extra minutes and I want to go ahead and go over one more report. Actually, I'm going to show you 2 more reports that are just really good for the type of implementation that's happening at Vanguard. So I'm going to first show you a report called the Student Quick View. Under Analytics, it's actually the very first report listed on the left. You can click on Students Quick View to get a bird's eye view of how your students are doing and exactly what they're working on. These filters that you're going to see at the top of almost every IXL report will be really important to drilling down the data to exactly what you need. You can just look at one class period. You can just look at one date range. But when I look down, I'm going to see each student's name, the name of the skills that they have been working on, the questions, the number of questions that they've answered, and the amount of time that they have spent. And then on the right-hand side, we have their current SMART score. So just a good bird's eye view of everything your students have been up to on IXL. If your students have clicked into the diagnostic at all and completed that this week, it will show you that as well and link you to the action plan. So that is the Students Quick View. But I have another great report as well. So this one is called the Student Summary and is one of our newest reports over here on the left-hand side. When I click on Student Summary, you're going to see that we have 2 parts to this report. This report is full of data from that diagnostic snapshot, but it's also full of data from teacher-assigned skills. So this report is like a one-stop shop for all of your needs when it comes to student-level data. So at the top, we see that we have diagnostic data. We have our starting point, our second pinpoint, and then our ending point. So you can definitely see the potential for growth here throughout the year. As you scroll down, then you see more student level practice when it comes to whether that's skills from the diagnostic or skills that are assigned by you. You're going to see that Mila has learned the following math skills. So it's going to list all of the skills that that student is mastered or become proficient in. As you keep scrolling, it also gives you a few skills that they will need in order to grow. And then last but not least, as we scroll down, there are some parent resources. So this is actually my favorite report to print out for parents. It's a really good resource for how to help their student at home and also for just seeing how their student is doing. And again, that is the student summary report. It is one of our newer reports. All right. So last but not least, guys, we are going to talk about my email address, my contact, and some teacher resources that I recommend looking at. So let me go ahead and give you my address. It is amyh@ixl.com. Go ahead and write that down. I'm going to also put it in the chat box, just so you have it. I don't know if you guys can even see that chat box, but I did put it in there as well. Again, it is amyh@ixl.com. All right, so some resources for teachers that I highly recommend. So over in our teacher account, you're going to come to My IXL and then click on Resources. As you can see, there are a lot of resources, but I actually recommend the implementation guides. The implementation guides are going to be a one-stop shop for how you're using IXL. So if you need an implementation guide for what we learned today about finding and assigning a skill, you can go ahead and look at IXL for daily instruction. If you're looking at IXL for the diagnostic, you can go ahead and look at this diagnostic assessment implementation guide. All right, guys, so those were our implementation guides. That was our teacher resources site. Lots of good stuff on here if you want to learn more about the diagnostic. I also love our Elite 100 because it just goes into how each teacher has implemented IXL in their classroom. And so it's just always good to learn from other people's practices. All right, so thank you so much for joining today's session. If you do have time, I would love for you to fill out the survey that's on the screen. This just helps me improve my presentation and practice. If you want to put a positive comment on there because you loved learning about IXL today, you can do that, or I would take any feedback that you have. Don't forget to write down that email address, amyh@ixl.com. And I will go ahead and stick around for questions if you guys have any. If you don't, I hope you have a wonderful day and a great start to your school year. Whoops, sorry guys, I didn't mean to unshare my screen. Let me go back for you. There you go. So amyh@ixl.com. Mr. Rodriguez, are we good to go or how can I help before we leave today?